Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, aka Possibility Man. We're committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force for good in the world. Our guest today is Natalie Bedard, also known as NatNat. Natalie exemplifies resilience and inspires many. While raising three boys, including twins, as a single mom, NatNat faced a life threatening illness that started her healing journey. She found methods such as energy healing, meditation, and techniques to calm her nervous system, which helped her heal both body and mind. Using her discoveries, NatNat established Lift OneSelf and guides individuals seeking well being and healing. She's also the host of the Lift OneSelf podcast. NatNat, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to having a playful conversation with you and sharing this space with your listeners. So thank you for having me.
Aha, looking forward to it as well. But first, a reminder to our listeners and our viewers follow, like, and share this podcast wherever you find it. Your support matters and is appreciated. Well, Nat, I've been looking forward to talk with you. I know the good work that you're doing out there. But let me ask you my first question because I'm curious about this. What were you doing before what you're doing now? Your background.
Yeah, so before as you said, the life-threatening incident that I had was I had lesions in my brainstem and in my cerebellum, so my body was shutting down. And I call that my previous life. So in my previous life, I was a security investigator for the government. So I would interview people about their background and all their vulnerabilities to see if we should give them a security clearance or not, and let them have access to secured information with the government. So the last I worked in many departments in the government with that type of work. One of them was in D&D, which is Department of National Defense, so that's military. So I got to go onto a lot of military bases and hear the stories of military members going on assignment and missions, and I got to really understand a lot more of human behavior and what our soldiers have to go through in their personal life and family life. So it gave me a real in-depth kind of knowledge. And I was always told that I was a bright light in a dark environment, and why,
Mm.
like, you just don't feel like you fit in because you're always so positive, or you're always trying to uplift people and not be so bombarded with the negativity, because security, you're always looking for a negative aspect in a person. You're not looking for the positive things. So that started to give me an inclination, I'm not exactly where I'm supposed to be. And as life would have it, it gave me a real pause, and I had to pivot in my life.
Isn't that interesting? You got put on this path, the path that you're on now. So, in a nutshell, how would you describe your work now? Just a glimpse into it. We'll probe it in a moment, but how would you describe it?
It's giving a space of safety. So
Mm.
a lot of us don't even know how to be honest with ourselves. And it's really a space of feeling. Many of us avoid feeling our authentic emotions, and our authentic emotions have information for us. Yet most of the times we default by the emotions or the defense mechanisms of the nervous system that protected us. So a lot of times people will say, well, I have anger issues. And it's like, well, it's not issues, it's protection. And what is the anger protecting you from? What do you not have the ability to feel? And most times it's the vulnerability, it's the sensitivity and communicating what your needs may be, communicating what you're feeling, your perspective. Yet the anger is a bodyguard. It defends, or
Mhm.
there's the shutdown. Let me just shut down and isolate and insulate myself and not have to deal and not have to feel. So I hold a space of that safety, of feeling, of being honest and connecting into self. connecting into the body and creating safety in the body. So it's coming out of here in your head and dropping into your body and creating that safety.
Yeah. It sounds like your work is both practical and spiritual. Is that a proper description of what you do?
Correct. I'm bringing
Mhm.
I I see a lot of there's spirituality and there's,
Mhm.
the abundance and the positivity. Yeah, we also have this human side, and a lot of people don't even know how to interact with fear. We're told
Yeah.
not to fear. Yet the nervous system needs healthy fear, or else you wouldn't be able to function in your body and in this world. So it's integrating the two of the human side and the spiritual side that you can amplify and use and live in a full life, be alive in
Mhm.
your life, not in the stories and the beliefs that have been, indoctrinated or placed inside you.
Yeah. In another place, either you've spoken it or you've written it, I saw it somewhere, but you described life this way, that it can be messy and imperfect. What did you mean by that?
Well, we're taught in school that we need to be perfect. We need the A plus to get the, attention and the accolades. Yet, really learning is making mistakes.
Mm.
Learning is feeling your emotions, allowing the emotions to be messy, yet being accountable for the actions, and also being accountable to atone when there has been, you know, um, a disruption or a disconnection. So, what is the repair? Life, we tend to want to be perfect because the perfection allows us to be adored by people. We
Yeah.
haven't been adored when we've made mistakes, we've been chastised. Yet you
Hmm.
have to allow yourself to be in the messiness to really feel the fullness of life and to
Yeah.
feel comfortable being you, not the, performative mask that we put on to feel the acceptance of the world.
Yeah, I'm glad you put that out there because many of us want life to be linear. We just want to go up, beat up on any adversity. Now, let's look at this messy stuff. Let's say that it's a box. What are some of the messy stuff that you've seen? We'll explore a little deeper, but not only with your observations about life, what your clients have reported. What are the messy stuff in this box that's sometimes messy?
Well, as I shared before we started recording, presently, right now, I'm in a lived
Mm-hmm.
experience. I witnessed
Mm-hmm.
my friend almost die on Monday. I've been accompanying her for 2 years through a cancer journey. And, everybody comes to me because I'm the space that holds the space for healing. Yet, in that incident on Monday, when I finally left the room with her and got a breath after, 7 hours of it, I just let go and cried in, the emergency room, and then went outside and screamed, and security all came alert, wanting to know what was going on. And, a part of me wanted to be, you can't do this in public, that this is too uncomfortable. Yet we have to be able to express our emotions so they don't get stored in the body. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of us tend to eat our emotions. We don't
Yeah.
even tears. How many times is it that when you see somebody cry or when you're crying, you hear, oh, I'm sorry, don't cry, don't cry. And it's like, why do we not have an acceptance of the tears, the uncomfortableness of it? And also to be able to acknowledge that when you start building your self-awareness, you're going to see some of the harm you've done towards yourself and to others, and not to allow shame and guilt to bury you, to actually feel that. And as I said, atone, have an understanding of why you did these things and understand the methods of protection your nervous system did. And that's
Yeah.
really hard to do. It's not hard, it's challenging. And it's very uncomfortable because we have, a filter and a judgment in our mind that you should be perfect. And I don't do these things that I say that aren't
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be done. Yet those are the messiness that you have to integrate in your life.
And all of us face them. I'm so glad that you were transparent enough to mention because you're a NatNat. You're not supposed to have messy stuff. And I live in the United States. What country are you in?
I'm in Canada, just above
You
you.
well, you're Canadian. You all are not supposed to have this stuff, you know. So now this messy stuff affects people throughout the world, doesn't it? You know,
Yes, we're human.
yeah, we are. Yeah, indeed. Now, okay, you've also noted as you look at these messy stuff that your work is trauma informed. What does that mean?
Trauma is you separated from self. And
Mm,
so when you separate from self, you're going on the outside looking for that safety. You don't know how to find that safety within yourself. And so your nervous system gets dysregulated and the defense mechanisms start to protect that vulnerability. And
mm,
you're not feeling your authentic emotions. So the
mm,
trauma creates this persona of protection for yourself that you always default because in the experience that you were in, you interpreted something to create a protection for yourself. Be it
mm,
I wasn't able to feel the vulnerability of the experience, be it I was being harmed, so I had to put like a armament on myself to protect my psyche, my emotions. Whatever that is, it's the interpretation that you created. And a lot of times, many of us we created this when we were a child. So when we're children, we think we're the cause of everything. We're not even
yeah.
able to see the ability to see it's other people's stuff. So
Mhm,
the work that I do is understanding that the nervous system protected and created these defense mechanisms. So now it's to bring you back in your body so you can tell these defense mechanisms it's okay. You can surrender the armament and we can allow ourselves to feel the vulnerability. For me, how
mhm,
I define the ego is the defense mechanisms of that nervous system protecting the vulnerability.
mhm,
There's an interpretation in that system that your vulnerability cannot come out because it's going to be harmed. It cannot
mhm.
endure pain.
Yeah. So is this, you know, let's say that someone have a trauma event, especially a child. Is this the point where a child or even an adult may put on a mask, you know, to try to hide what they're really feeling?
Yeah, of course.
Mm,
They didn't have the most times we weren't able to when there was a traumatic event. That's why I explained what happened on Monday. And as soon as I came out of the room, I allowed myself to cry. I allowed myself to do that belly scream so
mm,
that I could express and feel what I was actually feeling and not put on this persona of strength and I got it all together. That I could
mhm.
be in my vulnerability of what this actually feels like.
Yeah.
Most of us will put on a mask and we'll only get a little bit of the charge, but we shut it off. So in those traumatic events, you probably didn't feel your authentic emotions, so they got suppressed and stored inside you. And every time they
Mhm,
come up, your defense mechanisms pushes them back down because it's like it's not safe. So they build
mhm,
up and they build up, but you create this mask. But
yeah.
eventually the mask starts to erode and either there's, midlife crises or there's illnesses or different things that start to come that it's like, wait, who am I? And
Yeah.
trying to understand who you are within this insulation of protection in these masks.
Yeah, many people have heard in terms of responding to a traumatic event that we can flee. You see a dog that's coming, we can run away, or we can freeze because we're scared. But then you mentioned a couple of other things that people may not be familiar with, and one of them is fawn.
Mhm.
You mentioned that. I heard this somewhere. I'm not
Yeah,
making it
yeah.
up. That
So it's
yeah. Well,
it's
what's fawn? Yeah. What's that? What's fawning?
Yeah. So before there used to be the three F's for the nervous
Uh,
system, that activation you're talking about, it was the fight, flight, freeze. So fight, you're going to get into a
uh,
confrontation. Flight, you're going to run away, like you said. Freeze, you're not going to do anything. And then there's fawn that they just reintroduced. And fawn means you're going to conform into the situation because you don't want to feel othered and you also know that your safety is jeopardized. So
mhm,
you're going to conform into the situation. That's what we would call the people pleasing. That's what we would call
mhm,
the rescuer, the helper. So they're always in immediate of recognizing that
Mm.
if that person is elated, they're in joy, I'm safe. I won't be harmed.
Yeah.
Say
Uh-huh.
children had parents that were substance abusers, and then their anger and temper came out, and then they projected. They learned really quickly, hey, if they're in a good mood, I'm safe. I'll get my food.
Hmm.
I won't be harmed. All these things. Once they start getting angry, let me do the tip and toe dance to do whatever is needed to keep myself safe. And that's the
Yeah, that's a
sense of
sing.
protection. And it takes
Yeah,
a
they
long
say,
time to come out of that.
I know. It says, like me, don't hurt me. And that could also show up as a fake smile, wouldn't it?
Correct.
That you're hurting, you're angry, but you're even
Correct.
that fake smile. Yeah.
Correct.
Now look, so a lot of stuff that go into this messiness of life. Today, I just discovered this on LinkedIn. October 10th is World
Mental health
Mental
day.
Health. I didn't know that. That's whoa, my schema group. So there are a lot of people who are dealing with stuff, right? And
Yeah.
they are not, they're keeping that stuff bottled in. Um, and anxiety is a big one that you talk about. People face anxiety. And what else? What other emotional challenges would you say people face today around the world, not only Canada and the United States?
They don't know how to be honest with themselves. They don't know how
Mm,
to feel. It's not
yeah.
safe to feel. Especially in North America, we have a pill for everything to avoid pain and feeling.
Yes, that's right.
And just be
That's for
productive.
sure.
Just be productive. Don't have a life.
Mm, yeah.
Yet that
Work
erodes
hard.
after a while, and it starts
Yeah.
to impact the mental health because we need connection, we need
Mm,
fulfillment, we need play.
yeah.
That's what energizes.
That's Yeah, that's for sure. It's just amazing. The thing about it, as I see it, is that the people who may be experiencing depression, may be experiencing anxiety, may have had trauma in their life, they want connections, but have difficulties establishing it because of the events that they've lived with.
And I hold the space for them to recognize, to no longer go outside. It's that they have to start connecting within themselves so that they can trust themselves and open up to create these connections with others. They're trying to go
Mm,
from the outside in, where I hold the space that you're going to go from the inside out. You're going to come back
mhm,
into your worth. You're going to come back into your confidence. You're going to come back into, a lot of people think healing is becoming a new person. And in
mm,
actuality, it's removing the layers of pain that has buried the greatness that's already inside of you.
mhm.
And
Well,
so
and
when you're in that,
mhm,
you bloom.
yeah. You've mentioned self-awareness as being one of the ways to get out of this box where all of this messy stuff is. What is self awareness to you?
It's being aware of what's going on within yourself. It's being aware of questioning your actions. It's being aware of, seeing your thoughts and being aware of the present moment. Many of us are not present. We're still like kind of in the past. We're trying to protect the future. We're not able to just be. And when you can be, the self-awareness grows even bigger. And then you see the impulsivity, you feel the emotions going on. And then you recognize like these things don't have to pull at me to
Mm,
control my behavior. You
yeah.
have to develop and you have to be able to look at yourself. But many of us don't look at ourselves. We look at ourselves through others.
Mm,
We do the
mm,
comparison trap, and you
right.
won't find yourself there.
Yeah. You just mentioned the present moment because, I mean, this is big, has always been big, but Eckhart Tolle made it bigger. It's the craze, right? But the question is, how does one bring themselves back to the present moment when they know they've gone off someplace?
Just know that you're always in the present moment.
Oh,
Everybody's in
okay.
the present moment. Is your awareness in the present moment. And the
Mm,
quickest thing that you can come back into the present moment is your breath. Your breath is always in the moment.
mhm,
And once you
mm,
can ground yourself in your breath and recognize like when you're dysregulated or your emotions are flaring up, that it's going to start putting you into a pattern or a habit, to, interrupt that, come to your breath, bring the awareness to your breath so you can feel what's going on in your body, which we tend to not pay attention to because it's uncomfortable. We haven't been taught to feel.
Mm,
And once we start doing that practice, you ground yourself with your breath and it brings you into the moment and not
mm,
into the patterns and the thoughts.
mhm.
And then you can
Yeah.
take the action that you want to take, not the programming that's been in there.
Hmm. Now, you just mentioned the word dysregulation. Some people may be wondering, what does that mean? So, what does it mean?
That's that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So when your
Uh,
nervous system is activated, it's dysregulated. So it's looking for protection. It's looking for safety. So either you're going to
mhm,
fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So
mhm,
in whatever patterns you created, it's going to default into that. Unless
mhm,
and sometimes, if you're present and you don't have all this stuff that you get activated because something touched you personally, then, say if all of a sudden my house is on fire, I want my nervous system to be in the flight. Like I got to run out of here,
mhm,
not
mhm,
just freeze and sit and can't do anything. So it's being able to access that energy. Yet a lot of times you could have said something to me and I took it personally and I just went in my nervous system to defend myself. So that's a
mhm,
dysregulation where I wasn't
mhm.
able to listen. I just let the feelings activate that protection mode. And
That's
so
interesting.
taking
So,
responsibility for
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, are these involuntary responses? I mean,
Mhm.
you don't plan it, it just happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very,
Interesting.
very quick.
Uh,
Well, for we're having a conversation right now. Can you ever relate that all of a sudden somebody cut you off and you might have spiraled a little bit and got pretty angry about it?
I can imagine that happening. Yeah.
And then wondering when you walk away from that, you're like, what activated got me so steamed up by somebody just
Uh,
cutting me off or they did some kind of mistake or whatnot. Well, that's
mm,
that activation that your nervous system stored so much information of what could have possibly happened that
mhm,
it activated that anger, that response in those emotions. Yet if you're
mhm.
not aware of that, those emotions can spiral and keep growing and keep growing. And that's why they have the road rage because people are not aware. They're
Right.
not even
I
able to
see.
be present with what's going on internally.
Hmm. And so you talk about the warrior work, or the work of the warrior, however you want to put it. And I'm going to put it this way: it seems like that's the work to gain better control over your life. And the nervous system, or regulating the nervous system, seems to be one of the things that you advocate to do this warrior work.
Mhm.
So, how does one regulate the nervous system? We all have one.
There's many different ways. The technique that I use with my clients is for them to start learning to do meditation and accessing their breath so that they can start feeling. Another
Mhm,
one is dancing. Movement is really
mhm,
needed for the nervous system, especially when you're really activated. And a lot of people are like exercise. And for some people, exercise is very triggering because it feels like another task I have to do, and I don't want to do any more tasks. And you need play when you're dysregulated. So dancing allows the body to give some expression and to be
mhm,
able to communicate beyond the analytical mind because the mind wants to say protect you again, yet the body needs to express and release what is going on
mhm,
internally. So dance allows you to express in a way that doesn't need the language of words,
mhm,
and that it doesn't go through the filtering of your analytical mind.
mhm,
Another one is connecting with nature, so being very mindful. Journaling is another one to better understand why you have these patterns, these responses. You may know better, but you're not able to access the behavior. So creating that connection. And it's better understanding yourself. But the most important one is the breath. And
mhm.
that gets you right away. Like if when
Yeah.
you're able to access that, it's like, oh yeah, I remember my power of choice, what I got to
Mhm.
access. But it's
Uh-huh.
like it can be very windy at times and tsunami like to try to hold that sail and be like, wait, 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 we can
Yeah.
do the rudder and everything else, but it takes practice. It takes practice
Uh-huh.
because when you're activated, it's a very powerful system that we have.
Yeah. But those are some good techniques. Remembering to breathe, movement. People will say, okay, I can do that. But then they hear meditation and they wonder, do I have to sit cross-legged, to do that? Should I go to India to do that? What's meditation? What's
Meditation
meditation?
is to regulate yourself. You see, when I
Mhm.
learned meditation, it was in the form of TM. And they teach you to create a quiet space in your room and to do it twice, 20 minutes a day. And as you said at the beginning, I was a solo parent of twin boys, and the twins were 5 at the time when I learned meditation.
Mhm.
There was no quiet place in my house to cultivate that. So what I did is
Mhm.
I brought meditation to the couch and I brought it with them fighting and the TV going and the toys. And when I was staying with my breath, I saw that the nervous system always wanted to interrupt, to say something, to interfere in their interactions, to tell the TV to shut up, to do this, to do that. It was trying to control the environment, which I wasn't able to. I could have yelled, yet that's fear. That's me trying to interrupt, where it's like, why can I not be at peace in the environment? Why
Mhm.
can I not find the safety in the environment? And
Yeah.
I learned it in that way. So meditation, a
Wow.
lot of people think that it's to quiet your mind. No, it's really good if you have a meditation and you're like, I couldn't shut this thing up. It's like, great, you're developing
Uh-huh.
your awareness because before you
Uh-huh.
didn't even know it was going on.
Huh. You can find peace in the storm, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
So is meditation the same as mindfulness? That's also a big craze today as well.
Well, meditation is a technique to develop your mindfulness.
Uh-huh.
Mindfulness is
Okay.
being present. Like, because a lot of times, there's a lot of, especially with trauma, a lot of people disassociate because it doesn't feel safe
Mm.
in their body. It doesn't feel
Okay.
safe to feel their emotions. So it's better to be numb and not there, be
Yeah.
outside of it. Yet the mindfulness guides you to be present, to be in charge of your actions, to feel,
Mm.
the fragility of life, which, and
Mm.
also mindfulness allows you to see the impermanence of life, the unknown and the
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty, and not be
Mm-hmm.
debilitated by that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that you have done on air, breathing exercising or meditation exercises. I hope that you would give me that privilege of having you guide us through one, but I'd like to
Yes.
reserve it for the very last thing we do in our conversation. Is that okay with you?
Oh, I would be honored to do that.
Okay. Okay. Now look, surrender. I mean that word is about branded about often as well. When I hear people say just surrender, I'm wondering that well, okay, I want to surrender. How do I do that? What's surrender to you?
Surrender to me is you have to feel. You have to feel what the situation is and have acceptance of what's here right now. Most
Mm,
times when we were children, we were told to feel something other than we were feeling. Say if you were crying, we were told, don't cry. Stop your crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. So we weren't even actually able to access our and feel our emotions, and emotions are information. So the surrender is remove those armaments and those masks that you've created and just allow yourself to feel and feel the helplessness. Most of us aren't even able to articulate that we are feeling helpless.
yeah, because it's scary sometimes. I mean, a person could
Of
be
course.
going through let's call it the tsunami of the mind, and they're
Yeah.
thinking, how can I turn this thing off? How do you surrender to something like that?
It's to rest.
Oh,
It's to rest and acknowledge what you're feeling. Because once you acknowledge, I'm feeling scared,
mm,
you drop into your body a little bit more. But if you keep saying, no, I'm not scared, let's just go like, what I got to do? What I got to do? Rather
yeah,
than, I'm feeling scared. Like,
yeah,
whoa. Once you can acknowledge your own emotions, the body surrenders And it's like a weight comes off of your shoulders, and it's like, okay, doesn't mean like the heart palpitations or the antsiness is still there, yet it's
Mhm.
not as debilitating, like you just said, of a tsunami. And then you're
Mhm.
able to better communicate what's going on internally,
Yeah.
what's
But
here right now.
but our culture, Nat, encourages, you know, bucking up. For example, I've heard man up. Someone is especially males
Yeah.
experiencing an emotional pain. Man up, get over it. You're a man. Does that help the situation?
No. Why do you think that there's so many males, especially African American, Caribbean males, that are committing suicide or are violent
Mm, mm,
or don't even know how to be intimate in their relationships,
mm,
be emotionally available? They're human also. Like the statement of boys don't cry. Do you know how
mm,
much harm we have caused in the male species?
mm.
That male identity?
Yeah.
It's very profound. And I'm not saying, some of that suck it up was part of the industrial complex. It's part of slavery also.
Mm,
Males had to create a lot of what we have as an infrastructures, and emotions couldn't be there. Just be
yeah.
productive.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah. No
seeing the
wonder.
effects of that.
Yeah. I can imagine the walking wounded. You're feeling all of this stuff, but you don't know what to do with it. Now, I would like to put the spotlight on your healing journey. You kind of mentioned what was going on. If you want to repeat that, that's great. But kind of walk us through how you mended both body and mind and the journey that you're on.
It's funny. Yesterday, when I was walking into the hospital, the neurologist that was in charge of my care almost 11 years ago, I bumped into her, and I haven't seen her in 6 years. And she was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "It's not for me. I'm here for my friend." She's like, "Oh," and I explained the situation. She's like, "But are you doing okay? Like, you look good." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm
Mm,
I'm doing okay."
yeah.
Um, I'm not doing okay. I'm doing well. And, as I said, almost 11 years ago, I had lesions in my brainstem and in my cerebellum. I
Mm,
was admitted for almost 40 days in the hospital, and they did a battery
mm,
of tests. So when they don't know what's wrong with you, you go through some very traumatic, painful testing in the body. And to this day, I still don't have a diagnosis of what caused those lesions. And so I was crippled. I couldn't walk, I couldn't think properly. And, I was released without a diagnosis. So that means without a plan. And I was in the wilderness and solo parent, had to figure things out really quickly. And because death, I was given a prognosis of 6 months of living because they didn't know what was going on. That allowed me to recognize you have to start doing some inner work. You have
mm,
to really prioritize what's important in your life, because I was in that fawn state of my nervous system, the people pleasing and the rescuer, where it's like your parenting is the most important right now. You have young children that you have to be there for, on top of building your health so that you can be in this role. So I removed a lot of things in my lifestyle. I removed alcohol. I removed spending for a year. I removed sex. I removed sugar. So anything, I even took myself off social media. So anything
mm,
that would let me run to kind of numb, I had to face my emotions. And the spending one was really challenging because those dollar stores where you pick up a dollar here, a dollar there, and most of the times you don't even need the stuff, but it just gives you that sense of, oh, I bought something, I got something. And it's like, no, feel your emotions, Nat. Feel your emotions, feel your emotions. And thankfully, I discovered meditation a year after that release from the hospital. And that profoundly allowed me to do a lot of somatic release of the trauma that I experienced as a child in my body, and allowed me to come back into worth because I didn't feel that I was worthy. I didn't value my life. I valued more what other people were than my own life. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was running rampant with adrenaline and cortisol. And so it really allowed me to learn how to rest, learn how to keep myself accountable, call out my BS, call out my excuses, and most of all, feel my authentic emotions. And then honor the gift that has been placed in me, that I have a gift of listening. Like when I was in my previous life as a security investigator, people used to divulge things that my supervisor used to be like, why are they telling you that? We would never know this information, no matter how much we would investigate. And I just chalked it up of, well, I guess I have a nice smile that they
Mm,
feel okay, like safe to, speak with me. Yet
mm,
now I'm using it in a way that there creates healing for an individual, that a
that's
person can
great.
feel safe to be witnessed in the messiness of their life, and somebody's not shutting them down or judging them. They're helping them
Hmm.
to understand that messiness.
Hmm. Yeah. You mentioned somatic healing. Did you have a somatic experiencing therapist, or was this done by yourself?
It was done by myself.
Wow.
In those meditations of really regulating the nervous system, I really went really profound, and I was engaged with seeing it beyond what I had constructed in my mind of
Mm,
safety, because there's certain experiences that we've created a story, but we're not going to go beyond that. We're not going to feel the emotions, we're not going to see the other perspectives, we're definitely not going to see it through our eyes or see
mm,
it through sensitive eyes of seeing what that situation was. So the somatic of the crying, the debilitating knots and shivers and releases in my body that I just allowed to be expressed. And it wasn't just like a one time and it's a miracle. It was just
mhm,
more profoundly, because the more you allow yourself to peel the onion, the more deeper you get in there. And the body's
mhm.
releasing more and there's safety. It's like, oh, we can bring this up and you're not going to shut it down. And it's like, yeah, just let it flow up, flow up, flow up, and
Wow.
remove those blockages.
Mhm. Was this like a kind of spiritual insight that you had that changed your life, or how would you describe that?
Yeah, a
Mm,
lot of people will say that when they're in the presence of me, it's the most present that they've felt with God, Allah,
yeah,
higher spiritual.
yeah.
And the reason why is because they can actually access it within themselves. Because it's not,
Mm,
I'm just holding
mhm,
this space so that you can go within yourself and connect into
mhm.
that one self, that higher power
Right.
that we all have.
Yeah. So, but everyone doesn't heal. What do you say to someone who follows these practices, do all of these things, but they don't get the healing that they want?
That's the thing. It's not about wanting, it's about what
Mhm.
is needed. We
What
have
is needed? Mhm.
yes, we have expectations of what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
We create these stories and narratives of what it's supposed to. We want our wants, yet it's
Hmm.
what was needed. And are you accepting? One thing about healing is you have to receive, and most people
Hmm.
don't know how to receive. They know how to
Yeah.
give. They know how to what they should ought to look like to have a sense of belonging in the world. They don't know how to
Hmm.
receive and accept who they are and who they need to
Hmm.
be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, was it at this point that you started, established Lift OneSelf? I like the name, by the way, Lift OneSelf. Is that when you
Yeah.
started it, after this or during this?
It was in 2019. So I,
Okay.
was in the hospital in 2014 and I
Mhm.
did my work and my body started coming back online. And even, the medical staffs, all the specialists that I saw, they were like, I don't understand how these lesions came about, and I don't understand how they have reversed themselves and how your
Wow.
body is functioning the way it is. And like I
Mhm.
would explain what was going on, but they were like, well, it sounds like you're doing some mindfulness. So keep doing it. And I was like, well, wouldn't you want to know more so you could help other patients in the
Mhm.
medical system?
Mhm.
And I got a block from that. So that's where I meditated on it, and I talked to my,
Mhm.
my family practitioner, and she was like, you cannot go back to work the way that you did because the stress will kill you this time. And
Mhm.
I was, and so she's like, the work that you're going to go into is very profound. You're holding space for other people, and that does
Mhm.
taxing parts of the body. So anytime you get any kind of symptoms like you did before, you have to shut it off. And
Mhm.
so we engaged, and I meditated on the name. And the name came where it was lift those defense mechanisms, lift the ego,
Mhm.
lift those defense mechanisms so that you can be in the oneself, your vulnerability. And
Wow.
once you're in your vulnerability, you're in that confidence and that guidance. There's always a call calling to you. Like where we hear, if some of your listeners are Christian, many are called, but few are chosen. God is
Mhm.
always calling, but few of us answer the call to what we are guided to do in the world. I didn't
Yeah.
listen to the call. I had it when I was a child. When I was a teenager, I had it that I was supposed to be a child psychologist. Yet I listened to all the naysayers that, the university and being an entrepreneur, building your own practice, it's going to take too long and you're not, don't have the ability. So I didn't listen to the call. And now,
Mhm.
as life would have it, big pause, illness, profound understanding of the nervous system,
Yeah.
and go this way.
Mhm. That's great. Great. I'm glad you're doing it. And you're also a podcast host, so you must be a very busy person.
Yeah, I am. I am.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, so tell us about your podcast host. What kind of guests do you look for? What you try to do in it?
Well, the intention of it was to remove the stigma around mental health. Many
Okay.
people feel very lonely, and many people don't have financial resources to really explore, or they're only in a certain paradigm and they're wondering, like you said, the healing's not working. They're not getting the results. And they're
Mhm.
not aware that there's other modalities to be able to engage in to better understand the body and spirituality and the nervous system. So I have guests all around the world talking about their techniques. I even have guests talk about their personal experience of grief, suicidal ideation, being a family member of somebody that died of suicide, anxiety disorders, a plethora of different array of a spectrum to really just engage in conversations and dialogue, that we're no
Mhm.
longer creating a taboo and it's only with the academics, that we can create
Mhm.
a community so we can find the resources and create that change within us so that we can see it in the world.
That's needed in the world for sure. And we've talked about meditation, and you agreed to lead us through a meditation moment before we depart. Are you still up for that?
Oh, for sure. I would love to.
Okay. All right. Here you go. Take it over.
Okay. I call these mindful moments, and many listeners listen to a podcast while they're driving. So I'm going to ask Stephen, is it Stephen or Stefan?
Stephen.
Stephen, okay, sorry. I'm going to ask Stephen and I to close our eyes, but for those driving or needing their visual, please, safety first, don't close your eyes. Yet the other prompts you're able to follow. So, Stephen, I'm going to ask you to get comfortable in your seating. And if it's safe, you're going to gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to watch the rhythm of it, allowing it to guide you in your body. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up. It's okay. Let them surface. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop deeper into your body. Now, there may be some thoughts that have passed by or a to-do list, and that's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating space between the awareness and the thoughts. and dropping deeper into your body. Again, those thoughts have popped up, and it's okay. Bring your awareness to your breath, beginning again, creating more space between the awareness and the thoughts, and dropping deeper into your body, allowing yourself to just be. Be with your breath. Drop deeper into your body. Now, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while staying with your breath.
That was beautiful. I don't want to disrupt this what I'm feeling now, but I do want to say, Natalie, thank you so much for saying yes when I invited you to be on the show.
I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate you sharing me with your listeners. This has been a very very intimate conversation. Like I said, I'm in a lived experience with my friend right now and the fragility of life. So thank you for holding space for me. And I just want to remind you and the listeners to please remember to be kind to yourself. You matter.
Mhm. It's wonderful. Well, you've been listening to the Possibility Action Network podcast. Our guest today has been Natalie Bedard, the founder of Lift OneSelf. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton. Until next time, good day.
You are not alone, just keep on, keep on, keep on going. Just press on, press on.